Hey, welcome to Rotisserie Chicken. I'm Anna Leckie.
And I'm Jacob Worthington.
And here we like to get a little silly, a little roasted, a little rotated in the headspace about really cool, interesting things that pique our curiosity that we want to share with you. So this week, I researched a topic, and I'm basically going to try and teach Jacob about it, and he's got a big brain, so he's going to be asking a lot of questions about it.
Big but useless.
Half the time you already know all this stuff anyways.
I know.
Which irks me.
She goes, did you know? It's like, oh, you mean that research that was done back in the 1970s about... She's like, dang it.
Yeah, I want to tell you things you don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. Do we have anything exciting going on in our lives that we want to chat about real quick before we get into it?
I'm just wondering, is this your podcast voice that you said you were going to do?
Yeah, this is it.
Anna was like, I'm going to hit him with the podcast voice and be like, coming back at you with another one.
Yeah. We need sound effects like a radio talk show.
We're working on it. If you guys start liking and subscribing, and then we can monetize, and then we can build up a Patreon, and then we can put you guys behind a paywall, then we can start financing some legitimate equipment.
We need you to finance Rotisserie Chicken.
Finance legitimate equipment.
Yeah. This is the sound effect that I'm going to be using. All right.
Bring it up.
This is a sound effect.
That may or may not translate well. But we'll see. We'll try our best.
Anytime there's something cool, there's just going to be a lion roar that everybody hears. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about why people enjoy feeling scared. And I want to say certain people, not everybody.
Not everybody.
But I am one of those people. I love to feel scared. And I love the rush of freaking having some dark, creepy scenario. You're battling your way through a scary video game. You're watching horror movies. You're doing a seance with your friends. You're going on a ghost tour. I live for that.
I like to bust in on Anna and be like, we're bankrupt. The bank's taking the house. And she's like, ooh, that feels so good. I'm so scared right now.
I don't know if I like that kind of scared.
Oh, okay.
But I like the horror kind of mythological scared. What about you?
I don't know if I like roller coasters. I like thrills. I don't know if scared is the correct way to say it.
But you like horror movies.
I do like horror movies, but 90% of horror movies I don't get like scared anymore. I think that's like...
Except for Hereditary.
I didn't get scared in Hereditary.
You could not finish it. He has yet to finish that movie.
I found the head splattering of a child unsettling.
Bro, no
Dude,
spoilers.
It's 10 years old. I have a rule. If the movie's over 10 years old, you can spoil a little bit.
I hate that rule because I'm always late to the game. Always.
10 years?
Yeah, there's plenty of things. I still haven't seen Parasite.
People are still like, The Sixth Sense, don't ruin it. You're like, the movie is 30 years old.
Well, but you do. I mean, you've always, maybe you're just a trooper because you've always gone on the ghost tours with me, and you've always accompanied me willingly and happily.
Mm-hmm. I like
and you play scary video games with me and stuff like that.
I like spooky stuff, but it's more of intrigue and fascination rather than being like, oh no. But I do like thrills.
Other than you loving the feeling of being scared.
What do you mean?
No, so you're saying you like doing the horror stuff, but you don't consider...
I don't really get scared on our horror tours.
Well, but do you like the feeling of being like creeped out? Something's eerie, something's creepy.
Spooky, yeah.
Spooked out.
I like being spooked a little.
Yeah.
I like being spooked a little.
Thank you. That doesn't surprise me because you and I both have ADHD brains, which we'll get into.
Oh, shit.
So, why people enjoy being scared? An in-depth look. Fear is typically categorized as a negative emotion. Sometimes our brains are wired to avoid this for the sake of survival. This is watching horror films, doing haunted houses, engaging in extreme sports, something that kind of like you don't know if you're going to live or die, and paranormal investigations are all examples of this.
You know what I would also put in that category?
What?
Is like certain level of pranks. You know what I mean? Like the guys who go and they're like messing with like cops and stuff like that. That stuff is that's like a thrill seek of its own.
Yeah, I mean anything that's high risk, there's could be dangerous consequences for sure. Sure. The paradox of enjoying fear can be explained by examining the philosophical, psychological, and social elements at play. All right. Got a little marionette.
sprinkle.
Yes. So one of the first reasons is because it gives you a neurochemical rush. And if you all have been tuning into Rotisserie Chicken, you know I'm all about the neurochemical rushes.
She's all about the neurochemical
all
rushes.
about it. So when a person experiences fear in a controlled environment, the body releases a cascade of neurochemicals. So adrenaline, dopamine, and endorphins, and it activates that fight or flight system within our bodies. And adrenaline, it heightens that alertness and energy. So, it's like you chug an energy drink and your cortisol spikes, and it kind of creates this reward system where you have this mix of adrenaline and the dopamine, and some people experience pleasure whenever those things are interacting in your brain.
Well, we covered fetishes at one point.
We did.
And it was like, they were like the whole feet fetishes. Remember we covered fetishes?
Yes.
And one of the explanations for a particular fetish, such as feet, is the sensory part of the brain that registers where and what organs are. The feet and the genitals are really close for everybody. But some people...
In the parts of your brain.
In the parts of the brain. But some people's are closer than others, so that their brain registers feet the same way their brain would register genitals.
There's a misfiring and a crossing.
I mean, they wouldn't argue it's a misfiring. They'd be like, that's exactly the right
Well,
amount
I think
of
that's
firing.
the technical argument.
Yeah, so they're just like too close. Do you think the people who like being scared, their pleasure part and their scared part might be jumbled together?
No.
Okay. Never mind.
And it's just because of the, like if you're kind of on edge or you're kind of scared, you can like hear a little bit better.
Yeah.
You can see a little bit better, and you get hyper focused, so you're not thinking about anything else but that very moment.
It's a parasympathetic nervous system response.
Where you lock in. You lock in. That's actually super enjoyable to me because I have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain is 99% of the time thinking about 10 things at once.
Squirrel brain.
I have anxiety. I'm thinking about a million different things. But if I'm in a moment where my brain gets hyper focused and locked in, that's an awesome feeling for me because it's very rare.
Okay.
And it kind of takes me out of the stress of life, because it is very hyper fixated and hyper focused.
Okay.
And just that feeling of the adrenaline running through, and then endorphins, which act as natural painkillers, can result from kind of having that like whoo spook sensation. So in a nutshell, that biochemical cocktail feels intensely pleasurable, and it's similar to what one might experience during high intensity workouts or roller coaster rides or moments of extreme joy. It's kind of the same release. So.
Okay. Is that what makes you feel like your blood has like emptied out of your body? Where people describe like going white, when you get like really scared, like you get too close to an edge and you kind of like falter, and it like you feel like you were like a centimeter from skipping out. Do you ever feel like you have like all the blood and like warmth has kind of dropped out of your body?
Yeah, the way that I feel when that happens is my heart rate immediately increases. I feel the adrenaline release in my body that gives you that kind of burst of energy where you jump back from the cliff, or, if you see, for me, I'm arachnophobic. So if I'm out and then I see a spider, I get this huge burst of kind of energy that like propels me away from it. And then afterwards, you're kind of like hyper focused, hyper aware.
I'm usually just hyper. You know what I mean? That's the way I live my life.
Well, that sensation of fear is if you were out in the forest and then you look and you see a 500-pound tiger in the brush staring at you, ready to pounce.
I'd be like, that's a small tiger.
Well, okay, I don't know how big they are. 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 pounds.
Okay, if there was a Bengal tiger in the brush, staring at you, ready to pounce, what would you feel in your body?
Probably the poop leave my butt is what I would probably feel. I would feel wet in my pants.
Well, but what
But
else?
yeah, I would
You
would have that adrenaline dump.
Yeah.
You get shaky, you get clammy, everything kind of goes.
Yeah, you would have that whole response that would basically hyper focus your body to stay alive.
Get away.
To stay alive, to say, what do we need to do to survive this? And you need to lock in to do that.
It actually shunts a lot of the blood flow from your internal like organ structures to all your arms and legs. It goes, hey, we don't need to digest. We don't need to make urine. We don't need to do any of that right now.
Yeah.
What we need is our arms and our legs working at full capacity.
You need to be able to run as fast as you possibly can and beat the crap out of whatever is threatening you.
Out of a la tigre.
La tigre. So essentially, when fear is not tied to an actual danger, the body can still react as though it is, delivering a rush of energy and arousal that's addictive in its own right. And that natural high is one of the primary reasons people repeatedly seek out these experiences.
All right.
So that's theory one, right? Well, I don't even know if this is a theory. That's kind of proven. That's
100%. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a theory. That's just what it is.
Yeah. So second on our list is novelty and change. Okay. So humans naturally are drawn to novelty, which is the experience of something new and out of the ordinary. Our brains really like to do things we've never done before and see things we've never seen before. Like traveling is a really good example.
I would say for the most part. I do feel like there's a lot of people who their personality is like, oh, I'd rather just stay home and do the exact same thing over and again. But most people I like to hang out with, we like to mix it up. Yeah,
I think in a general sense, I think most, and not all, but most people don't want to eat the same meal every single time.
I do. Anna makes fun of me because I like to eat the same thing over and over and over again.
But you do start switching it up.
I do.
After a while.
I do like to switch it up.
Like you just won't forever. You'll do it for a couple weeks and you'll switch it up. So our brains are hardwired to notice, respond to, and seek out changes in our environment, particularly those that stand out from routine and predictability. Fear-based experiences provide a stark contrast to the mundane aspects of life.
Yeah.
A spooky movie, an eerie story, an adrenaline-pumping haunted house offer a complete change of pace and an emotionally intense escape from reality. Right?
Yeah.
So think about this. Like, for individuals who are sensation-seeking or prone to boredom, the fear-based activities can serve as a safe, satisfying way to inject variety into their life. Okay. So something that this really makes me think about, which we've talked about on this podcast before, is that for the most part, our human lives and existence is pretty chill.
Yeah. For people living in the Western world who are like middle class and above, yes.
Yeah. Right. That's a good note. Very PC of you.
I'm trying to, the people who aren't, they're not listening to this pod, but I do want to respect.
They are, bro. We're thinking about you.
We're thinking about you lower class third world podcast listeners in English. We're thinking about you.
We are. For the most part in the American and Western civilization, we're not living lives like our ancestors lived. No. Hunter-gathering. It was so, just imagine you're out there and it's freaking blizzarding and you have to go kill a woolly mammoth to feed your family. And so you and your crew trek, but on your way you encounter a saber-tooth that you then have to kill. One of your crew falls down a hill and breaks his leg. It's just it's stressful thing after stressful thing. Your life's constantly in danger. You're trying to just feed yourself and stay alive. And like, we don't live lives like that right now.
I mean, if you think about it, that experience is essential to the human experience. Mm-hmm. And if you're living a life where it doesn't exist anymore, I feel like you're going to be kind of off.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there is something about that feeling that reminds you of mortality, that eternal reminder of I could cease to exist at any moment.
What keeps me in that space?
What?
It keeps me centered around that. Dating you. I just know that at any moment I could just misstep and then I'm done.
Good.
She keeps me on my toes.
Good.
Good.
So, but you've spoken about this because you've had experiences that were
tons.
You were actually active in war, and
people shot at me. Things have blown up.
Yeah, and so that I would feel would kind of trigger some of that hyper focus. I mean, some of these feelings that I think you've even yourself admitted that you kind of enjoyed.
Oh yeah,
part of that, which I would group that in with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. It definitely, I don't know, my brain in hyper extreme situations becomes very centered, and my body just runs automatically and just does the next thing it needs to do. And that is a very addictive feeling, because we are so, at least me personally, so discombobulated and pulled in so many different directions. But when you're under extreme stress like that, there's one objective, and it's just to get through that.
Exactly.
It simplifies everything in your entire world. It's just we're here right now. It's us, and we've got to like survive the moment. And I do like that feeling.
I like that feeling too, because to me that is way better than being like, oh man, I need to pay my taxes before the deadline extinguishes. And all the stuff that we're like, oh, we have to do. Oh, I have to pay my gas bill. I have to freaking get an oil change. That stuff makes me want to bash my head into the wall.
Well, I talk about it how it's like,
I hate it.
It's like the fight or flight has not gone away. And in our culture, we've really stripped away that direct need for fight or flight. But now that same system is being used for bills and jobs and the economy and politics. And so we're like microdosing these small, super like vague modern fight or flight experiences. And I think that's why most of us are like depressed and have anxiety issues, because we don't understand that originally we would be in the tribe and we'd be hanging out and everything would be really copacetic and cool for the most part. And we only had these very direct, short-lived life or death situations. And that's how our brain evolved for 100,000 years. But now I have to keep track of like 12 passwords.
Right.
And then I'll put in a password and the password will be like, no, and I'll try to reset that password, and then that password will be like, "Hey, you can't use your last password." I was like, "Well, that's the password I tried to find."
Yeah, and you get stressed. You have your physical response, but it's not even fun.
And your brain is like, "This is a woolly mammoth," but it's not. But it's not, and so you're just like, I know.
Yeah, or when you get like an email that you're not trying to read, I mean, I'm just like, ew. This is something that when we went through the hard time of losing our cat Shrimp.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. We love him, Shrimp. We love you. He got lost. And so for about a week, it was me waking up every day, putting on a backpack of gear, trekking. I think I walked 30 miles in 1 week of just walking, looking for him, talking to neighbors, walking routes, going through the woods, it was a mission. As sad and anxiety ridden as I was, there was something about having that mission and a greater purpose of helping my fellow soldier.
Our lost comrade.
We're doing a reconnaissance mission. Exactly. There was something about that really was that I liked. Even as like messed up as that situation was.
Then you get it.
I felt like I really felt purposeful, and I felt kind of fulfilled going out and walking 30 miles on foot, coming back home exhausted, strategizing. There was something about that. And of course it was very upsetting. The whole experience was very upsetting, but it felt innate to my DNA.
Yeah, I think inherently that's the type of. I mean, we were nomads far longer than we were ever in civilization. I mean, we were nomads for like anywhere between 150 to almost 200,000 years. Human
Yeah.
civilization is kind of clocked at like 6 to like 12,000 years, I think.
Yeah,
So
which is
just just
nothing.
the tail end.
Yeah. I and it's I think also trekking the landscape, trekking the land. You're getting to know the land. You're a part of it. You're living within it. You're doing this kind of land nav
The Terra.
that a lot of people don't do normally. I mean, we hike for fun and we go on walks, but that actual mission-based land nav was really exciting to me.
But I think we're getting derailed here. We're like starting to dive into the evolution of
Yeah, we're
the
getting
human
derailed.
experience.
We're getting derailed, and to tie this back in and kind of move forward is I think there was a thrill-seeking element to that because it was high stakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I had fight or flight. I was running on adrenaline.
Mm.
I was doing that whole mom thing where I was like, I'm getting
I'm
my
gonna
fucking
lift
baby.
up this SUV.
Yeah, exactly. So the thrill seeking that you mentioned that you really like, and overcoming fear. So thrill seeking and overcoming fear is another idea. Some individuals have a personality trait known as sensation seeking, which drives them to pursue experiences that involve risk, excitement, and unpredictability. You got that.
Oh boy, I got that.
And I honestly do have that. I do. I know it may not seem that way, but I do.
Mm.
These people often find the experience of fear to be thrilling rather than threatening. For them, the high stakes and heightened emotions are invigorating and psychologically satisfying.
I will say that you don't want to. You don't like actually feeling in danger. You like very controlled, non like threatening danger.
Because I kind of burnt my nervous system out after
Yeah.
years of being in very precarious situations.
Yeah, but I don't know if you liked those then. You know what I mean? I think you just were. I don't know if you were like enjoying that.
I did to some extent. I think I really like the controlled chaos now, where it's kind of I get to choose.
Because Anna's actually very cautious. She's a very cautious person, and if something's like dangerous or something like that, she's like, "We gotta get out of here." She's like, "Don't step near that edge. Don't do this. Don't." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can be like neurotic about it now. And I do think that's from having some level of PTSD and being around like really crazy situations. So the people who like sensation seeking, the high stakes, the heightened emotions, and the invigorating part of it's just like super crazy. In addition, there's a sense of accomplishment. Let me start over that. In addition, there's a sense of accomplishment that can come from scary situations and making it through unscathed. So even if the situation was fictional, you might get a self-esteem boost of being like, I did that. I faced my fear. Yeah, I faced my fear. And this process really can help somebody with confidence. I've actually had a lot of experience with that, of doing things that actually terrified me, that once I did them, I became a much stronger, more capable person for doing it.
I 100% support that, because I like to, on my birthdays, I like to do something really difficult. That's like one of the things I enjoy doing. But what I was saying was, I feel like there's two neurochemical dumps. There's that initial dump.
Taking a big old dump.
Two neurochemical dumps. We're going to call them neurochemical poo-poos from now on, but there's two neurochemical poo-poos. The first one is that adrenaline, where you're just go, 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 we got to get out of here. And then the second one is that relief.
Yeah.
You have like this other, maybe it's the absence of that, or it's the recovery.
Post-dump relief.
Oh, yeah, that post-dump relief, where you're just like, well, you do have that moment of, and that's when you like almost crashed and died, but you didn't, and then you and your boys like high five. We're like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah, Yeah. So I think, and I do honestly really think that it's important to do things that scare you. I just think it's super important. There's something called post traumatic growth, where it's you have post traumatic stress and then post traumatic growth. And there's an argument to be made that if you can make it through something very stressful, challenging, and hard, you can come out with a stronger character afterwards that will actually make you a better, more well-rounded person, more capable person. And I think this is something that a lot of people, especially in this current generation, steer clear from, because there's almost this Disneyland idea that you should never face hardship. That's soft. The ideal life. And to me, that's not accurate at all.
They're soft. We're not going to do that with our kids.
Nah, we're going to freaking
leave them in the woods for 3 weeks with just a Bowie knife and a set of matches and be like, you better come back a man or not come back at all.
Didn't some Native American cultures do that?
Well,
they called it the it's like when the boys would turn 13, they would go out into the woods. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I mean, most cultures have rites of passage where a boy is supposed to become a man.
Yeah.
And a lot of them had to do with their first like solo march or their first hunt, and it was all centered around like skills that would be necessary once they were men in the tribe. And usually they're centered around puberty, but I talk about this a lot, is that our civilization doesn't really have any of those. We don't have like a rite of passage. I think college is like one that our culture is like, once you enter the real world. You know, what people mean is that now you're no longer a kid, you're in the real world. And a lot of that's usually signified by graduating college. One of the reasons I joined the military and wanted to go to war was because I felt like I didn't really have like a male role model in my family. I didn't have like a man to show me how to be a man, and I felt that going through that would be, I kind of put myself in like a self-inflicted rite of passage in a culture that didn't have anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like that's probably a lot of the drive people have going in the military, especially at a young age.
I basically just watched Mulan and that one song where it's like, and I'll make a man out of you. That's what.
I've never seen Mulan.
Oh my God. Sometimes before I go to the gym, I'll just listen to that song.
Isn't that about a girl? Like,
yeah, it is about a girl. So
that's kind of confusing.
It is about a girl.
I need the girl in me to become a man.
Well, I mean, there are other men who need to become men in the movie, and as Mulan grows, they grow with her. So
yeah, Mulan.
Let that be a lesson to you boys.
My girl. Boosting the self-confidence is a really important part in reinforcing one's resilience and control over their own emotional reactions. And I enjoy that. So maybe that's another reason I like kind of feeling fearful.
Yeah.
So there is an argument to be made that there's a safety net of fictional fear. So a key element that allows people to enjoy fear is the awareness that they are not in actual danger, right? We covered that. Whether it's watching a horror movie, walking through a haunted attraction, participants know on a cognitive level that the scenario is staged. So the safety net allows the brain to engage with the fear stimulus without triggering the same long-term anxiety responses that a real threat would. So, can it actually give you a little bit of mental training for doing like a simulation of something? And the brain goes, okay, if we were ever really in this situation, we could take from this experience. So it's almost like a safe preparatory kind of.
Well, your brain does a really bad job of knowing the difference between imagination and reality. And so they've done studies that practicing something in your head over and over again is almost as just as effective as actually practicing your thing, because your brain can't really differentiate between imagining doing the thing and doing the thing itself.
So it's funny you bring that up. When I was in my MBA program in grad school, we had a speaker come and talk about resilience and talking about doing this mental training. And she talked about how tennis players, when they would go out, they would fantasize about doing the hits and performing a certain way, and when they would just constantly think about it, and that the result was that if you mentally prepared yourself, you'd be more prepared. And then we had a neurosurgeon in our class. The neurosurgeon was like, no, like that's actually not really, like that was disproven. The neurosurgeon was basically like, that's not exactly accurate. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but he kind of poo-pooed on that, which was interesting.
Well, you know,
and I feel like they were coming at it from very different spots. So he's a neurosurgeon, so he's literally, I think, looking at the mechanisms of the brain and the processes and the connections and the what's doing what. And I think she was looking at maybe the emotional readiness through certain like anthropological studies or something like that. But I did take away from that. So I can't tell you what the truth of that one is. I think this should be something we research, but they were a little conflicting. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe emotional readiness. Sure.
I'm just going to choose to believe it.
Yeah.
Just like everything in my life.
Let's talk about true crime.
Let's talk about it.
This girl consumes a lot of it. It's a lot of it. And it's also, I think, it's very interesting to me. The psychology is very interesting, but I think there is also that preparedness. Okay. So I consume a lot of true crime. This balance of feeling temporarily afraid, but ultimately safe, creates this sweet spot where the body and the mind react intensely, but there's no lasting risk or consequence. When the experience is over, a wave of relief and calm can follow, often enhancing the pleasure felt during the experience itself.
Interesting.
You got me, son.
Yeah.
Here's another big piece, and I can get behind this 100%. Social bonding.
Oh, yeah.
Fearful experiences when shared, whether it's huddling on the couch with friends during a scary movie, screaming together during a haunted maze, there's an emotional intensity that fosters a sense of camaraderie and connection with people. And when people face fears as a group, they often emerge feeling closer and more bonded, having navigated the experience side by side. Think about going on a date, like a first kind of date, or maybe an early date with someone you like, and so you guys go watch a scary movie.
Yeah.
It allows for the girl to kind of cuddle in and be like, oh, I'm scared, like protect me.
Yeah.
It allows for that. And so it does kind of create that physical intimacy. Laughing together after the scary part and reflecting on what scared you the most, collectively experiencing the fear, it contributes to this sense of togetherness and then social cohesion.
You're like microdosing trauma bonding.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think I've ever gone through like a haunted maze with somebody and got out the other side and been like, this is my brother, dude. We went through this haunted maze. It's like me and you till we die, dude.
But you actually might if shit went down.
Well, if it was like a real haunted maze, like Michael Myers was like in there murdering folks. I will say, me and my war buddies are pretty close. Me and the guys we went to combat together are pretty close. And then there's this one time this guy almost died at this party, and we all had a hard time and needed to do CPR and call an ambulance. And then afterwards we came together and we were like, that was crazy, huh? And then like from now on, like we have this weird emotional bond because this dude almost died at this party we were at. Yeah,
for sure. There's a theory about emotional catharsis that fear-based entertainment allows individuals to explore darker emotions in a safe, structured way. It offers a form of catharsis, a purging or release of built-up tension or anxiety. So horror films, for example, can provide narratives that reflect deep psychological themes such as death, isolation, the unknown, and engaging with these themes can help people confront their inner fears and emotional burdens.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
So we watch scary movies. and there's like a slasher or something like that, and we're like, run, you got to get out of there, like, oh, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't hide under there, or like,
Yeah, don't take your boobs out. That's what I
don't take
always
your
say.
boobs out, dude. If you take your boobs out, you're gonna
Don't take
die.
your
Them
boobs
the
out.
rules. Them the rules. But like, do you think sociopaths or psychopaths watch those movies and go, "Come on, man, you're gonna need to run faster if you're gonna get them"? Like, do you think they relate with the serial
Honestly,
killer?
yeah.
Or they're like, dude, what do you do when you gotta stab harder than that?
Well, I can give you direct evidence of what you're saying. Jeffrey Dahmer was obsessed with The Exorcist 3.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that?
I didn't remember that, but now I know.
Jeffrey Dahmer was obsessed with The Exorcist 3. There was a period of time where he watched it every single day.
Dang.
So he got locked in, and he had a couple other really just dark horror movies that he would watch.
Mm.
But there's this really scary story where the reason he actually got caught was a young man escaped.
Yes.
And
I knew that.
the young man that escaped was handcuffed to the bed and forced to watch The Exorcist 3 while Jeffrey Dahmer got really, really drunk and was just being insane.
What a nightmare, because Exorcist 3 is like the worst one. You know what I mean? At least handcuff me to the bed and show me Exorcist 1 or 2 at least.
I don't know I've never even seen Exorcist 3, but I just remember that story. And I think anybody who's really fascinated by gore and blood and has the propensity to be violent would probably find some kind of arousal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ted Bundy liked detective magazines that showed crime scene photos a lot. He was like obsessed with them.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm sure that he'd be really into stuff like that. So by experiencing this fear, coming out on the other side, viewers may find a sense of psychological relief. It's a way of processing these kind of internal conflicts and not having to directly confront them totally. And I touched on this a little bit, but just to kind of reiterate that on a deeper psychological level, simulated fear serves an evolutionary purpose. So some researchers propose that engaging with fear in fiction can help people mentally rehearse.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Test your reactions, examine possible outcomes, build emotional resilience, and this cognitive rehearsal could aid people in real life environments. And there's been actual stories of women who watched horror movies or listened to true crime and then faced a crime themselves, pulling from that past experience as to kind of having a better idea as to what to do and how to handle that.
That may be why you guys love it so much.
Women by far have a greater propensity to be interested in true crime. And it could be.
Which is crazy because we have a higher propensity of committing those crimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We are the crime committers. If you guys are like, we got to watch this.
I'm a big proponent on knowledge is power. And there's something to be said for listening to this true crime. I'm interested in it, but I also become privy to things that I might not ever think would be a threat.
That's true. That makes sense.
And it's not, when I say true crime, it's not all like murder, but some of it's scam related.
The scam stuff's
scams,
really interesting.
Con artists, things that you just wouldn't think to identify, or be worried about. There's sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is a really big thing. There was something that I heard the other day where if you were at a grocery store and you came out and you saw you had like a red tie around your car door, that could be someone targeting you for sex trafficking or slipping an air tag. It's good to know about these kinds of things. So I can see that preparedness being part of it. Yeah. So I love scary video games.
She's a big fan.
If I'm thinking about I love horror movies and scary video games. And it's just that helps me release all that pent up kind of like me.
Oh.
Me. That's what I like. What do you say your favorite is?
My favorite video game?
Or just like ways of all the things we went through, outlets.
Oh, probably Probably like just doing like really extreme stuff. A lot of like physical challenges
Yeah.
where you're like, I'm trying to like overcome this like physical hurdle that I don't know if I'm capable of it yet. So obstacle courses, I do like Spartan races. Those are great.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really be in danger anymore like I used to, but nothing really compares to being in like a firefight and being shot at
Probably. I can
and
imagine that.
avoiding explosions and stuff.
I can imagine that.
Get you going.
Yeah. So, as usual for Rotisserie Chicken, I went to Reddit to grab some Reddit takes.
Okay.
Just to see what they were thinking about this kind of stuff.
What does Dr. Reddit feel about all this?
So, Purple Gray Yellow, the username, said researchers theorize that voluntarily arousing negative emotions can teach us how to better deal with future stress and anxiety. And this is a common technique behind a lot of exposure therapy. So, for people who have phobias, where a person is gradually put into a fearful situation so they become more desensitized or, from the irrational fear. So research shows fans of horror movies may even be more prepared to face real-world catastrophes. Sure. They train to be stronger. Good for them. I can't even imagine watching a scary movie at night alone and enjoying it too, only if I lost a bet.
You know what might help you?
What's that?
You know how, so we do this thing in our house where we have these tiny toy sharks and I hide them around the house. And if Anna finds one, then she can get a foot massage. She can spin that shark for a foot massage.
Yeah.
What if I got tiny toy spiders?
Nope.
Hid them around the house, and if you found the little toy spiders, then you would get a foot massage. Now you're starting to equate spiders. We're doing a little bit of like introducing. So she's like, "Oh, look, a spider! I get a foot massage."
I hate that. I would hate that. But I think the only way that would work is if the foot massage was immediate. Because it's not going to be immediate.
No, yeah, that's true. But then I'd have you looking around the house for spiders, and you might just pick up a real one.
Ew. Stop. God, that's the worst. If anybody tries to get me exposure therapy, it would be exposure therapy for the therapist, because I would pull out a gun and that freaking dude, I say, I'm going to tell you how this is going to go. You're going to put that shit back in the box, and we are not doing this. So, Moru Gumi said, I talk about this sometimes with friends, but look at ancient stories all over the world. Fairy tales, myths, and folklore are absolutely filled with curses, witches, demons, ghosts, poison, wolves, and monsters. These stories are told partially to frighten kids for amusement, of course, and to impart social wisdom and lessons. And this is important to confront children with fear and risk in a safe environment. As they get older and they hear the same stories over and over, they become familiar and they can explore different facets of the legend and put themselves in different mental roles.
Okay.
Of the victim, the hero, the witch, the woodcutter, the old man, and ask, why didn't he do that? Why did he do this? If I was there, I would have done this or that. They connect to the story from a different perspective. There's still fear and threat in the tale, but they can work out these emotions using their words or imagine different outcomes from this dangerous situation. It builds imagination and problem solving. I believe horror stories are extremely important in our human development because, frankly, shit happens and you have to be able to roll with the punches.
Well, thank you, Dr. Reddit.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, the enjoyment of fear is a complex phenomenon, and it involves far more than just seeking a scare. It combines physiological responses, psychological tendencies, and social dynamics to create a uniquely rewarding experience. For many people, being scared in a safe and controlled way provides a powerful emotional release, a momentary escape from daily life, and even a chance for self-growth. Very important. The paradox of pleasurable fear continues to fascinate psychologists, storytellers, and thrill seekers alike, and it's a phenomenon that shows no sign of losing its appeal.
So what's your next scary thing you feel like you're going to try to implement?
I think I know. I was talking to a friend the other day who's been playing Silent Hill 2.
Oh.
And they said that it was very good.
I've heard good things.
And I really want to watch Silent Hill 2. Also, there's some scary movies out I want to see right now.
Sinners looks really good.
Sinners. Is it a horror movie?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to be on it. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you. What about you?
I don't know. Thinking about robbing a liquor store, trying to get away from it. You think that might get me going? Might get me going.
I think that'll get the other guy going more.
I'd be like, wake up. No, I don't know. Probably some type of extreme physical activity. I might want to do another ultra.
Hopefully it's cleaning the house. You know what I mean?
No. We got
cleaning.
We got
sport
people
of
for
cleaning.
That. We got people for that.
All right, guys. Well, I mean, that's all I got.
That's all we got.
That's all I got. My chicken's cooked.
We've cooked this chicken. Now get out of here.
Bye.
Okay.